Hello, everyone.
And welcome to Please Clarify.
I'm Kalen.
And I'm Emily.
And we are so excited to have you here today.
Yes, welcome to our first episode.
Woo, woo, woo. Y'all don't know how long we have been working on just the preparation of this. Not even this one episode.
Months, correct?
months. So I guess a breakdown of what we're going to do today. We'll talk a little bit about ourselves, our values, our friendship origin story. And then I'll talk about the significance of Please Clarify, why we named the podcast what we did.
Yeah. And maybe also our kind of plans for, along with that, our plans for how often we're going to be releasing episodes and that kind of thing too.
Sounds great. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Toman. I am 27 years old and I'm living in the greater Boston area, but I was born in China and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. So shout out to anyone who is from the West Coast. I am currently in a PhD program and I'm just trying to navigate those next steps and think about where I really want my life to be when I'm in my 30s, I guess. And so that's kind of what inspired a lot of this podcast, the topics, and I'm excited to be here with Kalen.
Hey, I love that. We'll get into it a little bit later, but Emily and I met in Boston, but I'm currently in Metro Detroit area. Grew up here in the suburbs of Detroit, and I am back here. I came back for grad school. I am in the employment space looking for a job currently. Hopefully by the time this airs, I have a job.
Yes. Hopefully we're both employed, honestly. We're both going to be employed.
Yes, we are employed. You're listening to this. We have full-time jobs. Yes. We have salaries that we're okay with.
Benefits.
We're doing well. Benefits.
Yes.
Benefits.
Correct.
Yes. I'm 25. I will be 26 in June. So that's why benefits are really important.
Needs to happen. Yeah.
So I went to school for social work. I have a background in mental health. I love working with youth. Mental health in the Black community is something that's very important to me. I'm definitely thinking of going back to school for a PhD in eating disorders.
Yes.
Not for a while though, girl. You know that. You know I'm done with school for a minute.
Same.
Yes.
But when it happens.
When it happens, it'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm super excited, to be here with Emily to share more with you. We started this, I would say in January, almost texting.
Yes.
We were talking about pop culture, I think. I forget what exactly
we were sending voice memos back and forth about just pop culture events, people, things that were happening. But I do think, I feel like even before January, maybe in just our check-ins and conversations, we were always, we were like, we should start a podcast.
We're like, people want to listen.
People would definitely be interested in this. So.
Oh my gosh. How do you explain the podcast when you talk about it? Even though it's just starting.
Yeah, I think I explained it kind of honestly just as a discussion, a conversation between two friends who are trying to navigate this weird period of our lives and just, I think, adulthood in general. And especially as both of us are coming from the way that we met and just kind of our philosophies and outlooks on life, because they're so similar. I think that's a big piece of what I explained. I'm we're just kind of going to be talking about a lot of the topics that I think millennials specifically too are facing and dealing with as we enter our 20s. And I think you can probably also, I'll let you speak to the name since you were the one who came up with it, but I really liked the idea of Please Clarify. But just because there's a lot of things that are really confusing about adulthood and just a lot of ways that I feel bamboozled almost by promises that were made or just expectations that other people placed or that I had. And we want some clarification on a lot of things. So
I like that. I would say similarly. When people ask oh, what are you doing? I'm actually, for the last several months, me and one of my best friends have been working on creating a podcast. And people are oh, what is it about? And I'm well, thank you for asking. Let me clarify that for you. But it's a podcast for as you said, millennials. I think specifically for women of color in their 20s and
Correct.
30s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everyone is always invited, but I like to be very clear about who specifically we're doing this for.
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I agree with you. I think there's a lot of stories, a lot of like blueprints that we've been given, especially our generation, that just no longer work.
Yeah.
The idea that you're going to graduate from college with simply a bachelor's, be able to have a job
and buy a house.
And buy a house. We'll get into this later, but Emily
Yeah.
and I literally applied to one job.
We did.
One job after college.
With a living stipend, not even a salary.
Okay.
And I don't know why either of us thought that was a good financial decision.
I don't know either, but like we weren't prepared, and now we both went to grad school, and Emily's she already has her master's, but now she's in a PhD program, getting another master's. Emily. But there's just so many blueprints that don't work anymore. And also, I think with our generation, do you call yourself a millennial?
I consider myself a millennial. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but like in a very unique space, I think, because it does, the range at least is kind of large, I think, especially if you think about the development of the internet, which played
100%.
Yeah. I feel like in my time, and it probably applies to you a little bit as well, even though I know I'm older, but I think I still remember times. But I mean, I remember the time before, like growing up basically without a computer, and then also without really like television. At least my family didn't pay for cable, so I was watching PBS. Like there's just, in terms of consumption of like news and media and things like that, I remember a time where that just didn't exist. And I think Facebook was just starting to be a thing when I was in 8th grade or something like that. And
oh my gosh,
Instagram was not, that kind of came around in maybe junior year of high school. And it definitely was not what it is today. Like none of those things were what they were today. So I think being in that space where I do remember, what floppy disks are, just specific references that I think the younger generation now maybe are less familiar with. So I think it's a very interesting space to be in. And I'm sure at some point we'll talk about this, but really grateful that I actually did grow up pre a lot of those things, because I just see how challenging it is right now. And I can't imagine being a teen, a middle schooler, trying to just grow up and having having so much access to other people's lives and information in front of me.
100%. 100%. The reason I was asking what you consider yourself as is I think I consider myself almost as a zillennial. Okay. So I think to your point, though, I can definitely remember when we played outside, like when we didn't have cell phones, definitely things like that. But the reason I say that is almost with the name of Please Clarify, is I think email culture is something that is so big. And I think a lot of people honestly don't do it well. Yes, they don't do it well. And I've definitely like not done it well. I've been a part of that. But I think we do email culture very well. And it's because we don't take it seriously. We know the rules of the game, but we're also like not sitting there waiting by our emails. We don't like, I don't know about you, but I don't have, while I have the email app on my phone, like I don't have the notifications. When I get to my email is when I'll get to my email. You'll have the hello, dear, the salutations, the greetings. You'll have the body, the main message, like, please get this back to me by such and such date. And then I'll sign off. But especially working with kids, they don't know how to send these emails.
It was very interesting explaining that, I think, to some of my students, because you definitely don't want, you definitely don't want to impose, kind of like in a very adultist mindsets and language, I guess. And oftentimes, a lot of like the work rules and norms are very much rooted in like whiteness and white supremacy 100%. And like elitism. So I definitely wanted to be like, okay, I'm not saying this as someone to like to shame you basically for not knowing how to do this, because clearly just no one has taught you how to do this. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily, to your point, that you need to take this super seriously, but I'm just saying that from a perspective of, if you want other people to take you seriously, 100%. This is how you're going to need to write emails, because just simply attaching some of these emails I saw, I was
The
like, oh my
files,
god,
the files, no
Miles.
message, no
I
subject line.
and right, and but that's the thing that is so wild to me though is also I feel like some of the older generations, their email etiquette is also a little bit
Mm,
interesting.
yeah.
But again, they have the age and the power and the even if they might not necessarily feel that way per se, but I feel like they have the kind of legitimacy to at least be like in senior positions. So it's kind of like it doesn't matter. Like I feel like professors all the time will just write the body of the message in the subject line, which is,
Oh my
I don't know why
gosh.
that bothers me so much. I think it's
Yes,
just because I'm
yes.
like, that's uh, okay. Like, I don't know. And then there's always, of course, the joke of the sent from my iPhone thing at the bottom.
But I definitely agree with you. I think email culture is such a strong like part of our generation in the way we communicate,
mm-hmm.
but I do think there's a lot of unwritten rules that are, as you said, definitely have racist undertones, have elitist undertones, 100%. Um, and I also think people don't put enough context in emails. There'll be
They
like
really
a
don't.
5 paragraph email, and I'm like, please clarify. Like, what did
Yes.
you, by sending all this, what did you want me to know? Or
Yes.
what am I supposed to do moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so for me, and I think in our conversations kind of around like this podcast and what we wanted to talk about, a lot of it is just please clarify. Like even
Yes.
in talking about pop culture and people do certain things, I'm like, please
Mm-hmm.
clarify why you did what you did. Like what
Yes.
was going through your mind? What were you thinking? Um, and I also
Yes.
hope through our conversations, we can clarify a little bit about our past, why we might have chosen the different things we did,
Mm-hmm.
why we're
Yeah.
interested in what we're interested in. And also clarifying a little bit for maybe those people who are a little bit younger, like this is what your 20s actually will look like. Like
Mm-hmm.
you will be grinding, and not grinding in the like hustle culture sense,
Right.
but grinding in the sense that it pieces might not fit together.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be in a
Yeah.
job that you started in January and that you no longer have come May. So things, not that I'm speaking from personal experience or anything, but things can change so
They really
quickly. And it
can.
can be
Yeah.
frustrating when you know, like, oh, well, I deserve XYZ, or like I've been
Mm-hmm.
working towards such and such, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're making it. We still have a roof over our head. Like we got
Yes.
it. We
Yes.
got it.
We do. Mm-hmm. No, I
Yeah.
love that.
Let's maybe talk a little bit about our values. What do you value, Miss Emily?
Oh, okay. So I think for me, this has probably shifted a little bit as I've gotten older, and I imagine it will continue to. But
Mm,
I think for me, one of the biggest values I have are really community. I think that's a very important piece to me. And that includes, friends, family, chosen family. I am adopted. So I think that the concepts of family and friends and how those two things can really overlap with each other is something that's very important to me. So my definitions of those have always been very fluid. Um, I think alongside that, I don't really know if humanity is like the correct way to humanity and empathy are kind of two values that are very important to me. I think that so often a lot of what we are seeing, um, I am always left wondering, even if it's just a basic, like for example, it could be something as small as you get a weird email or kind of like a maybe passive aggressive email from somebody when you haven't really done anything like at work, and it can be something as big as just and look at any of the things that are happening on a wider scale today. But I really feel like this idea of reminding of ourselves of our humanity and other people's humanity has really been, I don't know, it feels like it's been hard to find lately. And oftentimes I'm really left. I'm like, I do need clear. I'm like, why? Like,
yes,
why?
why?
I don't know. I mean, and there are answers as to why, but I think like for me, those two things will always be very important. And I think lastly, as I said, nuance is also a very important value as well. And that's something that I carry both in my kind of personal life, but also in my like as a scholar, as an academic, and in work and everything. That's always been those three things have always been really important to me.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you love nuance. And I think that is something that I definitely appreciate, especially as a Gemini, who can very much like go from a side to side very quickly or like just have very strong
Mhm.
opinions. I definitely appreciate when you bring out that nuance. It's definitely
It can be annoying sometimes because it will be the I am the like it depends or like
I'm
what do
dead.
you mean by how are we
I'm
defining this,
dead.
which is annoying sometimes. So I'm
It's
glad that
okay.
you appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, no, that's too funny. I think
Yeah.
similar to you, I definitely so I've been on this job search as I've said, and I feel like I've had to like be ready to spit out my values when people ask or like, what are you about? And so the ones that I've been repeating and the ones that I've definitely been trying to
Mm-hmm.
walk out, especially in the last couple of years, have been transparency, authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, innovation, diversity, and
Ooh.
humor.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes, I will. Let me pick out the ones that I really like. I like
Okay.
transparency, collaboration, and humor, I think are the biggest.
Ooh,
Um,
yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did some work with one of my mentors. Her name is Liz Wiltsey.
Mm-hmm.
She does work around showing up as your like authentic self
Authentic
to
self.
work and
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
understanding how workplaces are um, inherently racist,
Mm-hmm.
inherently value white supremacist culture.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so transparency for me is like, how can I show up as a Black woman, get my needs met, share the
Mm-hmm.
needs that I have, and like make this workspace work for me?
Yeah.
And so trying to be transparent around, okay, well, I actually don't like when you say you need to see all of my calendar
Mm-hmm.
details, or like, I
Yes.
actually don't like when you slack me at 4 a.m. and expect me to be
Red flags.
responding.
Anyone listening, red flags.
Red
Don't, yeah.
flags,
Mm-mm.
red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And just being transparent about like how I collaborate as well, which is another value. I love people. Like I cannot overestimate. People get on my nerves, but at the end of the
Right.
day, I
No, I relate to
love
this.
people.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when people can't collaborate right, that puts
Yes.
a damper in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to cite Ebony Janice is someone who I've been following on Instagram for a bit. She is a womanish, she is a Black scholar, but she
Mm-hmm.
always talks about the importance of citation. And if we're
Yeah.
collaborating and you're taking advantage of like all the ideas I've given, or like you're just said, I did this. I'm like, babe,
Which
we worked
happens
on this
to
together.
correct, and that happens to Black women so
Yes.
often. Like
Yes.
so often, both like very obviously, and then also in subtle ways, like with any type of appropriate. Like we could talk, yeah, and I'm sure we will,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We
Mm-hmm.
will. We will. And then last but not least, y'all see me talking fast. When I get excited, I talk
No,
fast.
I
I'm
love
gonna work.
seeing this. I love seeing this.
I'm
Don't.
dead. I
We
love
just talked
that. I'm
about
gonna we
transparency.
did. We did. We
Yeah.
did. We did. We
Hmm.
did. So y'all know I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
Um, but humor as well. Like my
Yes.
dad is one of the funniest people I know. I grew up watching the comedians. I grew up watching different movies. Like I love
Hmm.
going to stand-up comedy sets. Like
Yeah.
if we cannot be funny in this space, if I
Yes.
cannot laugh, I'm
Yes.
not safe. Like that's not a
Mm-mm.
safe space for
Yes.
me. And
Anyone who
I've
takes, oh, sorry, continue.
no, I'm
Go.
sorry. I've been at companies where they're like, "Oh, well, we feel like we don't know you." And I'm like, "Well, you don't know me because this is not a safe space for me to be
Correct.
myself."
Yeah.
Like, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
value being transparent, but when I know that's not being received, or like I know this is not an environment
Putting you in a
where
vulnerable position if you show that.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I value humor. I'm gonna laugh it
Yes.
up, but you
Yes.
also have to be a safe space for me to be laughing it up.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
I think those are really good points. And I have been told that I look kind of serious, but again, to your point, I think a lot of that is
RBF.
because, yeah, and I think a lot of that is because I don't necessarily always feel safe to show myself. And so when people actually get to know me, they do
Mm-hmm.
realize like I actually am pretty silly. And I mean,
You are, girly. You are.
like I'm pretty weird. But I think that again, knowing how that's not always received, or that people will think I'm weird, and that will maybe have potential negative, repercussions. I feel like I do need to move through the world in a very like polished and, palatable way.
Palatable. Love
So
that.
it is yes, I love everything you just said.
Yeah, no. Talk to me a
Hmm.
little bit more about palatable. Why did you choose that word?
Just because I think, I don't know, I think a lot of times people, and this is where it does get me, when I feel like whether or not someone's being genuine when they say they actually want to like know more about you or know who you are,
Yeah, yeah.
it's very easy to tell when they're actually being honest about that, because sometimes people will say
Mhm.
that very disingenuously,
Speak on it.
and you kind of show a little bit of yourself, and you can tell. Like, I'm someone who can, I feel like I'm pretty good at picking up body language and just like subtle changes and shifts in behavior. But I think you can tell when they're like, ooh, like I didn't mean like that. And I think that kind of, that degree of like, it kind of goes into like tone policing and just
Yep.
ideas around, oh, well, you're allowed to express yourself in a way that makes me feel comfortable. And so
Mm-hmm.
anytime you do anything different, like I'm gonna, there, it's not gonna be good. And
Yeah.
so for me, palatable is just, that word is like boring, basically. Like, you have to be palatable to like anybody. And especially people who, again, if you're in the workplace, it's like to your boss, to people in power, like in a way that you have to change yourself in a way that um, makes people basically like you're not a problem in their eyes. So I don't know. Palatable. It's
Wow. We could spend forever talking about like not being a problem in people's eyes or being, to your point,
especially at work,
palatable,
and
especially at work.
being your full self, which again, I don't always want to be, but I think
Real?
it does feel it does feel like you can't really say everything. Like, even with
Yeah.
this podcast, I'm like, can I tell my boss that
I
I'm starting a
know.
podcast? Like, would she care? Like, would her opinion of me change? Is that, I don't know. So I think like that's, yeah, all questions. I mean, that's just one example, but all questions that I'm never sure about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're recovering people pleasers. I don't know
Mm,
who said that. I've definitely heard that somewhere, so I might cite it in the, as I talked about citing. I might
yes.
cite it in
Hmm.
the podcast notes. But at the
Yeah.
top of my head, I do not know who said that. But I think that's so true. Not only as like women of color, but having to, I don't know for you, like, and we can talk about, we don't have to talk about
Hmm.
this now. We don't have to talk about it in detail, but like I think just growing up with such expectations placed
Yeah.
on us, even if they
Hmm.
weren't like expressed, my parents are always like, "Oh, well, we didn't like tell you you had to get all
You're
A's."
like, you didn't need to tell me that, actually.
Yeah, or like you might not have verbally said that, but your
Right.
actions like very much
Yes.
said, "Oh, we will praise you when you
Communicated
get these
this.
high grades." 100%. And
Yes.
so like
Hmm.
navigating our worth, I think, and like navigating what makes us who we are and navigating
Yeah.
when do we feel our best? When do we feel our most Kalen? When do we feel our most Emily? And like
Hmm.
figuring that out for ourselves and trying to
Yeah.
create more opportunities for us to kind of
Be able
engage
to
in
do
those
that.
moments.
Hmm.
Yeah. We should talk a little bit about how we even met. Like how did this
Yes.
thing
It was a great,
start?
it was a great story.
Yes. No, I love it when you tell it. And I think you remember a little bit more detail. So if you want to start, I can fill us in. I
Okay.
can fill
Yeah.
in. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as Kaylin mentioned, we applied to one job when
One
we were
job.
seniors in college, and it was for an educational nonprofit organization,
Love
where we
this.
would be college advisors working in BPS high schools. And so, through that application process, we had 3 rounds, and the final round was basically kind of this speed dating interview
Literally. It was literally that.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were all in one room. You were able to see all the other people who were kind of, I don't want to say your competition necessarily, but you could see everyone else who was going to be talking to folks. And then you had like 7 minutes or something like that with a representative from each school to just, I don't
Yeah.
know, guess figure out if you liked each other. So
Basically.
anyway, at this moment, like, because there were more candidates than representatives for schools, you would have some downtime sometimes, like a break. And so I was sitting in that area, and I just remember, I can't remember if you came and sat down next to me
I
or
think
like
I
how
came. Yeah, I
that.
think I had just finished my
Okay.
interview.
Okay. Yeah. And I just remember in those moments, it's always awkward because you don't know, again, to your point about, I'm like, look, I understand that we're in a space where we're technically competition, but I can't be like, I'm
Okay,
gonna
come
say
on.
hello. Like I can't really.
Literally.
So I remember being like, okay, like let me try and like say something. So I don't remember what I said exactly, but I do remember so clearly that both of us were like uncomfortable in our professional clothing. And Kalen said, like, I borrowed these pants from my friend. And I remember thinking, that's so relatable. And I'm really glad she shared it because we had just met and like not everyone, I don't know, not everyone is down to like, not that you're being vulnerable necessarily, but just to say something like that. Because
Yeah.
I have been kind of that person to try and like make people feel comfortable sometimes. And I'll
Yeah.
say that and they'll literally look at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, that's weird.
Yes, yes.
So I feel like in that moment, at least, I just remember thinking, like, we're going to be friends. I'm like, I really hope we're friends. And I hope she makes it and decides to do this. And then,
One job I applied to.
yeah, which we didn't know at the time.
No.
But the fact that, I don't know, I just think the fact that both of us did that speaks to how similar we are. And then afterwards, at this really boring, I'll just say boring HR session, it was like after we had found out we'd gotten the
Forgot
job, they
about
said,
that.
yeah, part of the requirement was to go to this HR session just to hear about benefits, which is, anyone listening, it is important to know your benefits.
Yes, yes, yes.
The delivery of it is not always the most engaging, but so we were at the session and I was sitting down and I was kind of like looking around to see who had actually accepted. And I remember you came and sat down next to me and I was like,
Hey.
yes, she made the hands first. I was like, she made. So then after that, I think, yeah, we just had trainings together. I don't know. As I say, the rest is history. I don't know if that's a very cliche, but
literally.
yeah. So I was really glad that she made it through because yeah, I think of like in that experience, again, our similarities and everything, we were able to really process and sometimes are still processing just that whole job, that whole experience. And yeah, I'm obviously very grateful that we met each other and that we connected over pants.
I remember that like so fondly.
Yeah.
And I remember like the night before I prepared for it, one of my so I went to Harvard and we have that was gonna come up at some point. Glad it just came out casually came out now.
She's not like listen, I know she will be very humble about this, but she's really smart. Okay. Like she's really smart. But she's not like braggy about it. Like everyone knows those types of people who go to Harvard or Ivy's
We know them.
who
We know them.
will insert that in every sentence.
Literally.
But anyway, she's really
no. You're so kind. The feeling is definitely mutual. Like Miss PhD, Miss Doctor, I'm ready to celebrate you. But the reason I say I went to Harvard is just to explain this role. So we at Harvard in our like upperclassmen houses, we had tutors. So most people have RAs, but we have what they call tutors, which are actual adults, who basically like are living amongst us, and who like watch out for us and different stuff like that. But I remember the night before, one of the tutors was like, oh my gosh, like, I know you're going to be really great in this role. Like, I hope they accept you, whatever, but like, don't get stuck in education because I can very much like see you getting stuck there. I know. And I also don't have a blazer. So I had pants, but I didn't have the blazer, which I didn't have. So one of my friends who was like 2 to 4 sizes smaller than me was like, okay, like, yeah, you can, because she was from the UK. This is also important. So you know how the UK sizes
are different. Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking that. I didn't know that at the time. So she was only like a size or 2 down in US
like the
sizes.
Number, right?
Like
right,
the
right.
number was like
right.
2. So I was like an 18 and she had like a 14. I was like, baby,
that's
it's a blazer.
Right.
It's what it is. That's only 2 sizes down. Like I can fit that. That's like a US 10, y'all. So here I come to this interview to the only job I applied to in a blazer that is several sizes.
And you already know blazers, you have the like you already are trying to like your shoulders you can't do anything with your arms.
Here, exactly, looking like a fool. And I go down and after so I think we had 4 different ones.
It was like 4 or 6, like 4 to 6.
It was a lot. 4 to 6.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So I think I'm halfway through my interviews. I go to sit down and I'm tired. My arms are like this.
Yes,
I have a bag
like T-Rex
arms.
Like, yeah. Mhm.
very uncomfortable. And there's this friendly girl who's also like very obviously visibly uncomfortable with this process, carrying herself well as she always does. But we're both uncomfortable with
Yes.
being here. And just the fact that Emily said, like, when you're in those situations, but
Hmm.
somebody is like going to level set with you and be like, okay, I'm actually really uncomfortable here too, or this is awkward,
Yeah.
whatever,
Hmm.
it was destined to be. And as she said, like, it was that's all she wrote. Like
Hmm.
it's been great since then.
Yeah.
And we've been able to remain friends throughout the pandemic, which I think is like
Yeah. Hmm.
no small feat.
No, it's not.
No
Also,
small
outside
feat.
of, I think, especially that job specifically, because it was so all encompassing of our time and
All
our energy.
encompassing.
Yeah. And like mental thought too. I think it is really easy to just have people who are like work friends. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, I think
We all
the
need our work friends.
expectation, yeah, the expectation that every like person you meet or every kind of relationship or friendship that you have has to immediately be this like long lasting thing in every single context is really unrealistic and probably not good. Um, but it is, you know, how sometimes you have work friends who you kind of don't really have anything else to talk about with them, like other
Literally.
than work, which is
Literally. We
fine
know those
when,
people. We
right,
know
when
those
you need
people.
to, you know, talk, like it's fine, but you kind of realize
Yeah.
what else are like, how often are we going to be talking about, you know,
Literally.
like our submitting data and like things like this or
Oh,
like certain, you know, I don't know. So I feel like there's a certain, so as Kalen said, I think that being able to not only be friends, like, and have an understanding as coworkers, but also taking that outside of that context and still feeling like, oh, well, we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot that we really, you know, can agree on. And also, I think like push each other in our thinking a little bit and
100%.
like through the pandemic too. Like we also didn't even know the last time we saw each other was gonna be,
That's
but I
what's
was glad. Okay,
crazy.
but I
I
was
don't
glad
even
about
remember.
that because I
Actually, I
would
do remember
have,
the last time I saw you.
was that
It was literally the day before I left Boston. Like I was like, I gotta go. Cause
yeah,
you and Caroline had come over. I had made dinner. I
yes,
had just gone shopping at Trader Joe's where
yeah,
the freezers, everything were empty.
oh,
And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go home tomorrow because it was a Friday. It was a Thursday night. I was like, I don't know if I'm
okay,
gonna go home tomorrow. But as all the schools around us are closing, but we're
closing,
not closing,
yes,
I might just go home.
yeah.
But sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no, no. You're good. But I was just saying, like, the reason that I was glad was because I knew that the goodbyes would be like it would have been like
Mm,
emotional. And so I was
yeah.
like, oh, okay. The pandemic kind of like made it made it a little bit, it softened the blow a little bit. And now obviously like when we see each other, at least it's great. And it doesn't feel kind of like the weight, I guess, of the goodbye. It doesn't feel quite as heavy. And so I was a little bit grateful for that because I was like, I cannot be out here like crying like on the street. Like, I was
Literally.
like, so anyway, but it was,
No.
yeah.
I think also because there's like, and I don't know, like if we'll be wrapping this up soon, whatever. But there is something that is, I love this, so we can
Yeah.
literally talk forever, whatever.
Same.
But there is something so intentional about our relationship, and like maybe that's
Mm,
like the
mm-hmm.
Capricorn in you that like vibes with my okay, like
Yes.
can we
Yes.
schedule? Can we
No.
schedule this?
Google
And I
Calendar
think
and yeah.
yes, when during the pandemic, but I think even before that, like when you were still working with that company, and then I had like
Mm,
started working with the school district, like we
yeah.
would be like, okay, well, we're gonna meet up every other week and do
Yes.
XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
At that time
Yeah.
we both were working on grad school applications, but
Oh,
also
that was rough.
it
Yeah.
was rough. It was
That
rough,
was
and we will
rough.
tell y'all more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we were very intentional about that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that
Yeah.
is something that a lot of people like don't think about. And I get that we all have our different capacities. I would
Mm-hmm.
encourage you all to
Yeah.
look at the spoon theory. Like we all have our different spoons and our different availabilities,
Mm-hmm.
but the ability to be proactive about, okay, I want to make sure I see you at least every
Yeah.
other week, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do what I got to do to make sure that I
Correct.
get my Emily
Yeah.
time in.
And have it be
um
reciprocated and not feel like,
yes,
oh, I don't, yeah. I feel like that's
yes,
important. Mm-hmm.
not to be like, Kalen, that's weird. Like, why are we scheduling
Right.
this? Like,
I don't know. I don't know about that.
exactly. And I think
Yeah.
I've just really appreciated about that about you too, is that you roll with everything. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
obviously tell me
Yeah.
like when I'm in the wrong or like need to be corrected.
Which
But I
like one, I mean, It hasn't
We
happened that much.
okay,
Okay,
exactly.
because
Exactly. We're on the same most things are on the same page. We're on
yeah,
the same page.
yeah,
Um, but I just genuinely appreciate that about you. Like I know that I can bring all of my wackiness, all of my energy, like 100% myself, and I know you're going to accept it. And I know the moment
yes.
I knew that this
Oh,
was for life is when we were in. Is that like Cafe Benet?
oh.
And Cafe Benet on Mass
Yes,
Ave. I'm up
yes.
here crying in public, y'all. I don't do that. I don't cry in public. I'm up here bawling. Emily is trying her best to like give me tissues or whatever. I'm up here bawling. Like, I gotta leave this state. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not happy here, whatever. And she was just so supportive. And in that moment, even though I'm up here crying in public, it felt like it was just me and Emily. Like she was
Yeah.
right there, listening, being supportive. And I
Yeah.
will always remember that as a moment that I was like, this is for life.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
for life.
I remember
Yes.
that was I remember that
That
moment
was
too. And
one
I
of the worst moments of
definitely,
my life.
oh, in that moment, I definitely was not worried about literally what anyone was thinking. I was like, you continue with, I'm like, continue on, move along. Like, I don't, I really don't care. But I remember thinking that moment, I was like, she's not happy. Like, and it made me really sad because I was like, I was like, I don't want her to be so sad. And like,
Yeah.
all of the things that I think you were raising, especially, it just felt like there wasn't really anything that either of us could do about it. It
Right.
was just like it was like not
Had
it.
to go. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
had to go.
Yeah. So I think that for me, I don't remember what specific moment it was. Maybe it was
Yeah.
when it was either maybe it was Harry Styles or it was when you sent this like photo
We
when you
don't
were
talk
younger.
about Harry Styles a
Brittany.
lot
Yeah.
too.
But I remember realizing I was like, oh, Kalen's a little weird. Like I was like,
Yes,
but it wasn't
girl.
in like a judgy way at all. But I was like, she's weird and I really like that. Like I was like, and I think that was when I felt like you had like, you were able to kind of whether or not this is true for you, but in kind of that realization, I
Yeah.
was like, we like trust each other. We trust each other to like show ourselves like this.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for me, it was really, yeah, I was like, wow, we really, and then when you came to Boston, I also, what stands out to
I
me is
love
when we were
that.
both in the hallway and I don't remember what we were talking about, but we had the same mannerisms and we said the same thing to the point where it was kind of like, we're like, no, you should, but what do you want to do? I was like, anyone else watching that would have been like, oh my gosh, like you two need
What's
to
happening?
be together. But when you were like, we're literally the same person, I was like, yeah.
Oh, what I appreciate also, sorry, this is just like a love fest now.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that about you is that for the most part, we are on the
Mhm.
same page.
Yeah.
We like have very similar humors. We allow space for each other to be who we're
Mhm.
going to be.
Yeah.
But I think that is just so rare. And I'm not saying that all like friendships, our friendship is not perfect. To me, it is.
Mhm.
But
Low key, like I know when you said that, I'm like, what are the
I
parts that are not
know.
working? I was like, let's talk about
I don't
that.
want people to be jealous, you know. I don't want people to
Right,
be
right.
jealous or to look at their friendships and be like, oh, I don't have that. But I think I've always prayed from a little girl. I
Mm,
prayed to have a friend. Oh, y'all about to get me crying again. But to have a
Kalen,
friend who would, y'all really about to make me cry on episode one.
no.
But to have a friend who would understand me. And I just appreciate that about you. And I
Mm.
remember there was one time you sent me the Snapchat. You remember
Um,
like the thumb filter? You had done like your face was a thumb. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. She gets my humor. I love this. And honestly, like
oops, sorry.
maybe up until like last year, the year before, like that was your contact photo because it just for me,
That's
I
so
know,
funny.
I
That
know,
is
but
so
it
funny.
represented like this girl, she's got me, she understands me, I could be
Yes.
myself around her, and I know, hopefully that she feels the same way and that the
Mm-hmm.
energy is definitely reciprocated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
wow. I love
I
this for
know.
us.
I love this for us too. And you all will continue to get to know us, both as our
Mhm.
friendship and us as individuals.
Our original plan, as you might be able to tell, we kind of we're just kind of doing this and seeing how we feel and enjoying it. And,
Yes.
trying not to overthink it too, because I think that that's both of us. I mean,
We're
it's great.
planners. We're
We're
planners.
planners. We also like to be very thoughtful and intentional about what we do. But
Yep.
I also think this is nice because at a certain point, you just kind of have to do it. And I think that it's really cool to see, at least from my perspective, it's really cool to see Kalen kind of light up like this.
Hey.
So I don't know. I am losing my train of thought here, but our intention, I guess,
Yep.
to try and maintain and keep it sustainable alongside just the other responsibilities and things we have going on was to do monthly episodes for
You're
the
right.
first part.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
like after doing this, I'm like,
I can do this. I know.
I'm
I
like,
know. I know.
weekly.
Okay, we're the same. Why are we the same people?
Anyway, plan under promise, over deliver. We're planning on
Amen.
one episode a month for
Amen.
now until we evaluate just how much work it takes to upload and things like that.
Yep.
Because we do want everything to be, quality and meaningful.
We love
to a
quality
certain
over
extent,
here.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of our plan. And I think moving forward, this next themes, if I'm remembering correctly, were around like friendships and
You're remembering
relationships.
correctly, Miss Tillman.
But at the same time, I'm also like, we're both in our job searches right now. So I feel like those will also be
My pivot
topics that are coming up because I definitely, well, but we both have had a lot of feelings and we also have quite a bit to say about jobs and careers. I
we
think.
do.
Mm-hmm. So you will find out friends, jobs, careers,
whatever it is, tune in. Be here.
Exactly.
Just be here.
Exactly. So those are like loose plans, and we're trying to also keep it fun and not take it too seriously.
100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of our initial agreements is like, okay, we're gonna do this, but we also want to make sure that we are like we enjoy doing it and that it's fun and that it's creative and it's us like tapping into that creative energy. If you do not already follow Miss Tillman on Instagram, please check her out at Figuring It Out. Figuring It Out. She does some amazing content over there related to her PhD program. And so please check that out. But the reason I brought that up is because we're doing stuff for fun. We are doing things that we want to do. We're doing things that we enjoy. And so this is another
piece
part
to that.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, let's say that again. What was you gonna say?
Oh no, I just said piece of that. Piece of that.
Oh, I love that. I said piece of the pie. I was like,
oh no,
start saying that. Piece to the pie.
Piece to the pie. We can. That could be a new phrase.
I love that.
But I was just gonna say, Kalen also has an Instagram around her scholar.
Don't follow me right now because it's in flux. If she wants
to share that at when we edit this, you can add that in. But she does have one.
Oh my gosh, no. This is so amazing. Like y'all are going to love this. We are coming prepared. As Emily said, we always produce with quality.
Yeah.
And so even if we only put these out once per month, we might be recording them. And you'll get what you get. You'll get what you get because we're human. We're going to promise you once a month, but you'll get what you get. And we're here to have fun. We're here to laugh. If you have questions, if there's things that you want us to talk about, let us know. Hit us up on Instagram. Emily is at Figuring It Out. Figuring Out. We'll put it in the description. I am at Scholar KNC.
She dropped it. She dropped it.
If there's things you want us to talk about, put it there. We will also be having an Instagram for our podcast. And maybe it'll just be easier if you just send it over there. Yeah. What is it again, Emily?
It's Please Clarify Pod.
Please Clarify Pod. So send us questions, comments, whatever over there.
Feedback.
Please. And then also, sorry, you are probably listening to this, but we will also have visual elements. So you might be watching this as well. I don't know what you're doing. You might be watching this, you might listen to it, but we have both. We want to make sure that we can be accessible to a lot of different audiences. So we'll try to have a transcript as well. And any feedback, I guess is what I'm saying is let us know.
Yeah. And we're excited to have you, as much as we're like, you're getting what you're getting. We're excited. We hope you join us. We hope you join us. Always. We're excited to have you listening to us. And I hope it feels like just you're listening to friends. Like having a conversation,
Yes.
or just it feels relatable, and what we're talking about feels like something that is pieces of it just are resonating with you. Okay, so this is the portion of the podcast that we'll do at the end. Currently, at least that's our plan, but it's just going to be a section where we ask each other what we need clarification on. It might be serious, it might be funny, it might be a combination of both or something else. So I will ask Miss Kalen first. So what do you need clarification on right
Yes,
now?
I would appreciate if y'all could please clarify, how are you supposed to fill in your eyebrows? Because I only let this one lady in Harvard Square in Boston, shout out to, I think they're called like Harvard Threading, whatever they're called. I only let her do them, and she does them very well. But I also need them to be filled in. So if y'all could just let me know, like, actually put this feedback in the comments. What like, is this okay? Like, what? How do you do this? So just please clarify that for me
They
in the
look
comments,
good.
in the DMs. Let me know. I did this especially for you, Miss Tillman.
Ooh, okay. No, I think they look fabulous. I also think, as someone who doesn't know how to do their eyebrows, mine
No
are.
idea.
If
I
you're
think yours
looking
look
at these,
great.
that's because I got them powdered professionally. So and it lasts. It's basically like semi-permanent tattooing, kind of like microblading.
You don't need to send me the details.
Because I cannot draw eyebrows, and I remember struggling with this so much before this, because I just it never looked good. So if anyone has an answer, it's not me, but if anyone has answers, please let us know.
I'm also in the podcast notes going to include pictures of this. I was in college. I think it was a freshman. I thought I was doing it. Have I shown you those pictures,
I don't
Emily?
know. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I'll put them in the podcast notes. But I thought I was doing something. But I basically took an eyeliner. So y'all know.
No,
Black,
I've done that
an
too.
eyeliner pen.
I've done that too.
Babe, the thing is, though, people were complimenting me. I didn't know they weren't good until I got on a call with my mom, and she was like, "What are those caterpillars above your eyes?" And I said, "I look like this."
Parents will humble you so fast. You're like, "I look good." People are and then immediately they're like, "What is that?"
And what is that?
So like, not in a good. This isn't okay. Yep.
No, great. But looking back, she was correct. She was correct. Yes. But Miss Tillman, what do you need clarity on this week? This month?
Yes. So I think what I currently need clarity on is not to be. I switched last minute, but I need clarity on these job applications. And as I've been looking, I think specifically around not putting salaries up front on job postings. I want to know why you weren't putting your salary when you know what your range is.
What your salary is.
And even though I know, like, I think New York recently made it required that you have to be transparent.
Colorado.
Yeah. Why aren't more people doing that? Like, you are wasting, for me, at least at this point, when someone doesn't put their salary, it's kind of a red flag. I'm like, why are you not doing this? So for me, I need clarity on why more people aren't doing it. And I know this is kind of like a rhetorical point that I know why they're probably not doing it. But at this point, I'm like, I need you to get with the times. I need you to just be 100%. Very upfront so that we can both understand what the situation is, and we can not waste each other's time, because it is annoying. It is very annoying.
It's also annoying.
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Demonstration. But like, alongside that too, these requirements as well, along with these like non-existent or low salaries that they have. Like, why do you need 10 years of experience, a master's degree to get paid $40,000? Like,
come on.
That's not. No.
Why you got the title director making $50,000?
Yes,
baby.
Like in a city like Boston.
Like Boston.
Like that's ridiculous. Who can survive? I know people do make it work with kids too, and I'm genuinely impressed, because I really don't know. I don't know how, but
I don't know how.
That's what I need clarity on. And
I love that.
Thinking about that.
I love that. And I will just attach, people need to stop saying like the salary will change based on where you live. It is expensive to live everywhere. Apartments cost $1,500+ everywhere.
This $40,000 isn't cutting it, especially as we talked about before, when a lot of us have followed the blueprint of go to college, you can take out loans, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm over here paying loans and trying to live. Baby, it's expensive. Y'all need to put the salary on there. Don't waste our time. Don't waste Miss Tolman's time. Okay. Okay, you can waste my time, but don't waste Miss Tolman's time.
Don't waste Kalen's time either. Don't waste anybody's time. It's really annoying. Like
100%.
Yeah. So that's what I need clarity on. Okay. And clarity on eyebrows and just the practices of these employment agencies. What's happening?
100%.
None of it makes sense. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I think this is about the end of our time today. I really do appreciate you all taking the time to be here with us, to listen, to check this out. Anything?
How do people end podcasts?
Well, we'll see you when we see you. I kind of like that.
We'll see you when we see you. Yes. We'll see you when you see you. Okay.
We'll see you when we see you. Okay. Y'all take care out there. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.